akua, a ole ho'ie no. A ole hiki wawai ka huhu, a ole no ino. O ke aloha o ke akua, a ole pa oni ke aloha. A ole ha'anui aku ke aloha. A ole ha'ke. O ke aloha o ke akua. A ole ia e ho'opuni puni. A ole imi I kona mea iho. A ole he kua I kai. Ke mau nei ke ia mau mea ka mana o I o ka mana o lana. A me ke aloha o ke akua. Ke aloha nei ka I oi. Love is the greatest. Mahalo. Thank you, Kaho Sky, Reverend Sky. Aloha oi. You are a good man. Aloha.
The stage is bare. The crowds are gone. The love we shared still lingers on. We sang and played, and we laughed and cried, and in a fumbling way we tried to say what only hearts can know. And all too soon I had to go. And now we're in this darkened room. There's just empty seats. There's just God and me. It was so easy to know you, Lord, when 1,000 voices praised your name. But there's no one to hear me now. So please hear me now. Be near me now. The stage is bare. The crown's all gone, Lord. Now's the time that I need your song to give me joy and certainty when no one else is watching me. I need you more, much more than words can say. 'Cause tomorrow's just a daily day, and I so need to feel you near, holding my hand. Please hold me there.
Today, indeed, our stage is bare, but imagine with me what it must be like in heaven this afternoon. With Sky there, don't you know he's gathering the choir? Don't you know he's revving up for the party? Let's imagine and see if we can join in spirit today.
Oh, it's a great, great morning, your first day in heaven when you stroll down the Golden Avenue. There are mansions left and right, and you thrill with every sight, and the angels are a-smiling, saying, how do you do? Oh, it's a great, great morning, that first day in heaven when you realize your worrying days are through. You'll be glad you were not idle, took time to read your Bible. It's a great, great morning for you. I had a dream, and I confessed I hated to awake. I dreamed I was an angel at the pearly gates. St. Peter said, hello there. How have you been? We've got your mansion ready, so come right in. And then he rang for an angel to act as a guide. He spread his wings a time or two and taught me how to fly. Oh, it's a great, great morning, your first day in heaven when you stroll down the Golden Avenue. There are mansions left and right. It thrilled to every side, and the angels are a-smiling, saying, how do you do? Well, it's a great, great morning, your first day in heaven when you realize your worrying days are through. You'll be glad you were not idle, took time to read that Bible. It's a great, great morning, a great, great morning. Oh, what a happy day!
Great comfort can be found in the poetry of Scripture. I invite you to allow these words to soften the hurt places. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow after me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. Thank you. Whether we knew him as Sky St. John or Patrick Dickson, we come today to weave together stories of an important man's life. So it's appropriate that we start at the very beginning with the family. Sky was the middle of 5 brothers. The youngest, Tom Dickson, is here to share a glimpse of early life and perhaps give us an indication of what unfolded in the decades since.
Thank you, Margie. She said I have only 2 hours, so I'll try to shorten it just a little bit. So first, thank you all for being here, and for all of you that are on the webcast, thank you for listening to celebrate. We sincerely appreciate it. It's obvious he was loved and gave love to so many people. And I want to share a few things about some other things that Sky loved. As Margie said, there was 5 boys in our family. My poor mom, yes. And there was Mike, and then Pat, and then Jim. Those 3 kind of came about 3 years apart. And then there's Kevin and I sometime later. I think my mom really wanted a girl, and that didn't quite happen. Sky seemed to get all of the artistic talent completely in the family. The rest of us were kind of the typical boy jock things, and he consistently made fun of us for being kind of Neanderthals. You know, one year he was in track in high school, but he would tell us basically that was just because he wanted his picture in the team photo. So, doesn't that sound like him? He was a lover of science and technology ever since he was a little kid. Many of you know he had probably every Apple product ever come out. He was a serious geek there. He was very creative, and he loved to fix any kind of, he was the fixer of any kind of small electronics technology. Anything that was broken, he would love to fix. Back during the 60s in the space race, he actually got a signature from Neil Armstrong before he actually went to the moon. And he won his science fair on this project. It still traumatizes Kevin today. He wanted to test the effects of potential space on what would happen on a rodent if it was in space. So he injected it with something, put it in the spin cycle, and it lived. It wasn't gory, but that's an example of the kind of things that this guy was into, right? Always experimenting and always trying different things. A later science fair, he created this incredible herbatorium, or however you say that, and in his bedroom, had all of these feeding tubes to grow plants. Day of the science fair came in, he would not fit out his door. So I think that troubled him to this day. He was a lover of cars. There's a lot of photos out there, fantastic. Just a few of the cars. I think he probably ended up giving most of them away. He also seemed to have a propensity for getting cars stolen as well. At one of his little science experiments, he put a doorbell on his Falcon, which he's standing by in the picture out there I saw, due to a remote start. So it was like one of the first remote starts. You know, you just pushed the doorbell and the car started. And before he really actually got to use it, somebody stole it. But we don't think they actually pushed it, they hot-wired it. So he loved the places he lived in, none more than Hawaii. This was truly where he felt home. But really, he spent some time, my dad was in the military and traveled, a little bit until he retired in early 70s. But really, a lot of his grown-up years were in El Paso, Texas. And Sky really thought that he loved the desert. And he cried when my dad said, "We're getting transferred to Hawaii." Can you believe that? Yeah. He didn't know what was really here. But he would, in the desert, he would collect all sorts of animals. He would scare my mother constantly by bringing home horned toads or snakes around his neck and all those things as a kid. So, but wherever he went, he fell in love with, whether that was El Paso, whether it was Kansas City, Missouri, Washington, D.C., Omaha, Nebraska, Coos Bay, Oregon. I'm sure I'm missing a number of them, but he fell in love with wherever he was, and he fell in love with the people genuinely wherever he was. Back in the early days, we of course knew him as Patrick, and then when he graduated from high school, and he graduated early, he was 16 years old, and he really wanted to be, that shows how smart he was. He really wanted to be in the ministerial business right away. So, but we were raised Southern Baptists. Can I get an amen? All right. Praise the Lord. And those of you that know him probably figured out that wasn't a real fit with his personality, right? I mean, it was a little strict. They wouldn't even let him play the church piano there. And he was very poor. He would make grilled cheese sandwiches with his iron and sell them to the other students to make some money. Yeah. So that didn't last long. So he begged my dad to come back with him to Hawaii, and of course they took him in with open arms. And that really started his love affair with Hawaii, was coming back here. And of course, as you know, Sky loved entertaining and educating. Throughout his life, Mother made him he'll tell you, he put only 2.5 years of piano playing lessons. That's pretty impressive because he was a very good piano player. Just 2.5 years. I got a 1.5 years of organ lessons. I was the popular kid in school. Great. So that's why you all know him and not me. You know, but he parlayed that. He loved playing the piano mostly because he wanted to sing and he wanted to touch people's lives. And in Hawaii, he spent, many people knew him at Benihana's of Tokyo. He was there for about 10 years. And my wife and I came when we were on our honeymoon back in the 80s. And to see him, and he had a lot of love there. And, you know, he was always an entertainer, whether he was with Kaipo or the Beamers, or Michael, and just loved to make music and loved to touch people's lives in that way. And I think, you know, all of that background helped him really find his way into the ministry. I think that was something that he was very passionate about, touching lives. You know, he loved his family, and he loved his parents. Sky was, when my parents were ill, Sky took time out of his life and spent a number of months until my father passed, taking care of my mother who had Alzheimer's, and then again later in life he took care of my mother in her final days as well. So he loved the family, and I think that's one of the reasons why he bought with Danny some cabins in Colorado. Not because Colorado's beautiful, which it is. It was just a little colder there when we started here. But he loved his family. He loved visiting them. He loved it when we came and visited him, and we'll miss him dearly. And lastly, one of the things that Sky really loved was change. I don't think he'd ever get enough change. I mean, I imagine that the church here has probably gone through like a change a week with Sky around. You know, in that it was representative of his career. He started out as, you know, he went to ministry school, and then he came back and he was an educator, took his kids around Europe in a Volkswagen van. He was an orchestra leader. He was a theater leader. He became an RN. I don't know how many of you know that, but Sky was an RN. He was in the process of pursuing his doctorate in public health administration when he got the call to ministry and decided to join Unity. And that's when Sky changed his name. Now, at first for us, it was a little difficult to, it was like, wait, you're not even keeping the Dickson part of your name? He hated his name. Well, he didn't hate his name, but he really despised his middle name, which was Lynn. Thought that was a girl's name. And of course, Pat, we all know the Saturday Night Live thing didn't really help him. So he was anxious to get rid of that and decided to go with Sky St. John. And knowing the spiritual transformation that was made in his life, we understood his reasoning for making that change. And we supported him and still call him Sky to this day. So change, I think he would look at this passing as well as a change. As hard as it is for all of us, he would view it as a change, and that change is good for people, and that he touched a lot of people's lives. He's trained so many people that it's time for them to carry the mantle, he would believe. So we'll miss his love, we'll miss his laughter, and his huge, great hugs that he would give. He was the best hugger I think I've ever known. And so we'll miss him dearly, but I think he would want us to celebrate his life. So thank you.
James Buchanan is a friend who shared an important time in Sky's life and traveled the journey of the last several months. And James will add some threads to the tapestry of Sky.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you, Tom. I know that we can all visualize Sky's big smile right now. At least most of those stories, he would be smiling, right? I know he's smiling because we're all together. And Sky was all about pulling people together, even though he wouldn't want it about him. He was far too humble for that. One of many traits that I admired about Sky, and there are so many things that he impacted my life with, it's immeasurable. I only have a few minutes, so I can't get into all of them, but you know what I'm talking about because I've heard your stories. I've heard what you've talked about. And some of you have maybe met him one time and your life was changed forever. You were changed, and that's incredible. It doesn't hurt that he was such a funny guy, and I can imagine him in the desert. He told us about when he was in the desert and he found out he wanted to be a minister, that he was out there practicing preaching to the cactuses. I love that. I can see him doing the millennium prayer to those cactuses. And better than that is the iron. I wish I would have thought of that in college, making grilled cheese sandwiches. Most of you know, though, he's become a much better cook since then. And as Margie mentioned, I got to go on this sabbatical with him to Colorado, and that was phenomenal for me. It was a phenomenal experience. But mysteriously, the neighbors and friends would start gathering more and more around mealtime because Sky would be putting a gourmet concoction together. And they were a little surprised when they would come in, and we would be in one of our deep spiritual life talks. They would be, whoa, what did we step into here? I don't know. And I was like, wait till you see the transformational deck, the deck of transformation out back. And they weren't sure if they wanted that, but they always came back. They always came back. Our deep talks that we got to have many times would be organically spawned out of the fact that the doctor told him to get lots of exercise. So we would go on a canoe trip or have epic hikes. I will miss those hikes. You gotta hike with Sky St. John. I'm telling you, you're on the trail, and he'll see a rock or a branch or a flower or a tree, rock, whatever, and say, let me tell you what that means. And he would just start spouting off the metaphors, and he would have a whole talk there, and he would say, James, there's the top. We're going to the top, and we would be tired lumbering or slumbering, and we would get to the top, and he would say, oh, this isn't the top. This is a false summit. The top's over there. And imagine the talk that came out of false summits, right? And I'm like, wait, am I the cactus here? I don't know. But the whole time I feel transformed. I mean, you feel things stirring in you when Sky is talking. And when you get to the top, he would just say to me, this is the gift. This is the gift up here. That was the challenge. That was the hard part. Now we're at the gift. And I agreed, but at the same time, it was the gift just walking with him step by step and being with Sky. That was the gift, for sure. I believe that at the other side of this grief and the challenge that we have ahead of us, there's a gift there. Sky, people like Sky, there's really no one like Sky, but people like Sky, I think of Sky as sort of a flame that flickers, and we don't want that flame to go out. We want to keep it forever. But really the meaning of that flame is like lighting a torch that will be spread among all of us to carry on that passion and that meaning of life. Ted Kennedy said, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die. Sky would add, and love transforms to that. At the end of his talk, or the common denominator of his talks, if he was talking to you personally or talking to all of us, that was the common denominator that love transforms. And, you know, we had talks about how we see a world where a lot more people love each other. And you know, I'm not talking about physical and all that. I'm talking about just getting somebody eyeball to eyeball like Sky would do and saying, I appreciate you. I love you. Let's do this together. Let's do this together. One last thing I would like to share with you is on that first day in the hospital with Sky, the hospital sent me to pick up his ID or try to find his ID, and I went to the apartment to look for it. And there was I couldn't find it, but there was a suitcase from his trip he had just taken, and I opened it up. and he had neatly unpacked everything already. Something made me unzip this little compartment in the back of the suitcase, and out falls an index card with his handwriting on it. And it was an affirmative prayer. And when I got back to the hospital, there were a few of us that first day that gathered around his bed to pray and to talk to Sky. It was so beautiful. And I got to read this affirmative prayer in Sky's handwriting. I'd like to share it with you right now. I am deeply, profoundly, unconditionally, and everlastingly loved, now and always. You definitely are, Sky St. John, and the most epic hikes and gifts are just beginning. Mahalo.